More of Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy comes your way now. And make sure to join me, Larry Elder, tonight at 7, only on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Well, Illinois gun owners, you're not out of the woods yet with respect to your Democrat-controlled General Assembly and your current governor, by the way, who feigns support for individual gun owners' rights. You'll note that he failed to fill out the questionnaire in both 2014 and 2018. And here's the deal. When somebody won't tell you where they are at on a particular issue, they're telling you that they'll betray you at any given moment, depending on the political expediency required to advance their interests at any given moment. So I know some people who are, not particularly informed or not particularly courageous or principled are trying to buttress Rauner for vetoing that gun licensing bill this week, a bill that he said he wasn't going to deal with until after the primary. He's only dealing with because his support is flagging, and he's in a death match with Jeannie Ives now for the Republican nomination on Tuesday.
Yeah, but he did it in such a wimpy way. I mean, he got as far away as possible from Chicago media to make the announcement on a small, Southern Illinois radio station.
Yeah.
To make the announcement that he's going to veto
the gun bill. That's right. And so, don't buy the flim-flammery. I mean, how many times do you have to get stuck in the back before it starts to you start to understand what's happening? You start to say, maybe I don't want this guy in the same foxhole with me.
It's like a bad boyfriend. He's not going to change, okay? Wake up, people.
Todd Vandermyde joins us now. He's the executive director of the Illinois Gun Dealers Trade Association, former lobbyist for the NRA in Illinois. Todd, thanks for joining us.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Hey, good. So other gun control legislation that is being bandied about Springfield for action after the primary.
Yeah, well, we had the action in the Senate this week where you had the waiting period for certain semi-auto rifles and shotguns was passed by the Senate. Now goes to the governor for his consideration. They added an amendment onto the no possession or purchase by minors, anybody under the age of 21, on certain semi-autos. They finally heard that or figured out that it's a per se violation the way the bill passed the House. So they added an affirmative defense to the possession of the firearm. So if you're 18, 19, 20-year-old veteran from Kandahar happens to own an AR-15 and gets pulled over for a traffic stop, they can plead that they owned it prior to, and they're kind of grandfathered in, but they're still subject to a felony arrest charge, having their car impounded, and having to hire a lawyer to go tell it to the judge and plead their case.
So on the confiscation, I just want to put a fine point on this. You own a rifle that's on the prohibited list, and you're under, or you own any rifle and you're under 21 now under this proposal, and you could say you get pulled over, you've got it in your car, you could be arrested for possessing it, even though you can subsequently exonerate yourself by proving that you had it in your possession prior to the law going into place.
Yes.
Well, how does that? How does that? That's unconstitutional.
That was their idea of a grandfather clause, letting you go to court after the fact and prove somehow sales receipt or who knows what that you had that rifle before the effective date of this act. But the real chicanery is that they didn't put in a grandfather clause or any affirmative defense in there for possession of a magazine. So my 18-year-old who happens to enjoy the sport of practical rifle, it will be a felony for me to hand him a 30-round magazine when we go to the competition tomorrow and let him use that if this law were to take effect. If he gets caught driving my pickup truck and I happen to leave an empty magazine or two for my AR in the truck somewhere, he can be charged with a felony.
That's unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable, but it's believable.
But back to the gun. Yes, go on.
This isn't just an attack on gun owners. This is an attack on the gun culture, on the gun clubs, on the shooting sports. They don't like the fact that our kids participate in so many sports. My son doesn't play basketball, doesn't play football, isn't on the swim team. This was his one sport that he chose to do and enjoyed spending time with me, a weekend every month when we go and shoot these competitions. And this is an attack on preventing those kids. The Illinois State Rifle Association has the Junior Hard Dogs, nationally accredited rifle team. It will be illegal for them to practice their matches in the state of Illinois if this were to become law.
Wow. Well, they're always, coming up with new legislation to try to vilify gun owners. What do you think is going to be next?
Well, I think that the magazine body armor ban is still pending in the House. I'm sure they will probably take a run at that. There were hints on the floor from Senator Silverstein, of all people, that they would that they were probably going to consider some sort of big semi-auto ban somewhere in the future. Obviously, they put, so when we passed concealed carry back in 2013, part of what the Speaker structured as a deal to get the votes to pass some of the restrictions he wanted was a prohibition on new semi-auto bans on long guns. And so the municipalities had a window to act. If they didn't act, they were foreclosed. Well, they added that to the bump stock bill to really kind of just jam up the governor and or the Republicans. Here, we dare you to vote against a bump stock ban because now you're putting a local gun ban into that. This is where, you want to know why there's not a conversation? It's because of political stunts like this. This is gotcha politics being played by the Senate Democratic leadership and by people like Kwame Raoul. This isn't about an open and honest discussion about let's sit down and see where we can fix the system or what is there that everybody can agree to. They just want to pile on and take stuff. Even when gun guys make concessions on stuff like bump stocks, that's not enough. Now they want to throw in local gun bans and play politics with it. And I believe they don't want to solve the problem. They want to have the issue, the demagoguing campaign, and put in the mailbox with the campaign mail pieces.
Yeah, I mean, that's the scare tactic, right? I mean, Todd, you've been around for a long time, and you know what the Democrat playbook is for the suburbs in particular. It's to scare suburban women that if you elect this Republican, he's going to install mandatory installations of gun turrets at everybody's roof.
Right. And so I think that it's time we start calling out Democratic leadership for, the fox tears that they have. They don't sit there and get up when there's a massacre most summer weekends in the city of Chicago. They sit there and wring their hands a little bit. They throw out a press release. They walk away. 17 kids get massacred in a high school, and now because there's some momentum, they try to use it as a national movement to just pile stuff on. None of this would have affected what happened in Florida, and our laws are a lot different than Florida, and there would have to be an even larger catastrophic failure of all the systems that took place in Florida for that to happen here in Illinois. But that's not enough.
Yeah. Well, Todd, tell me why you're against the magazine body armor ban. I mean, that's otherwise known as the Commander Bauer bill. Right.
Well, first off, I train with body armor. I use it when I'm an RSO on the range, when I teach some of the classes that I'm involved in. It's just like ties and air protection for me. It's safety equipment when I'm on the range. I also happen to have it with me just in case I run into a very nasty situation. That's one issue. The other issue is, under their bill, if you have a concealed carry license and you carry a Glock 17 with two full-size magazines, you can be charged with a Class 2 felony. How does that make any sense? The shooter in Florida used 10-round magazines. He did what we all said they would do. If they go to a mag ban of 10 rounds, they will just carry more magazines. Published reports say he had 15 magazines with him. So the magazine, so now you want to outlaw some of the most popular magazines for the most popular guns, whether it be an AR-15 or a Glock. To what end? I mean, I have a fleet card. I go through 360 background checks a year. If that's not enough, then please tell me when it is.
And the argument, because the issue of the gun licensing bill, even though it's dead for now, and this is particularly important to your the trade association to which you're the executive director, the Illinois Gun Dealers Association. Tell us why that would have been so onerous, because, of course, you have Tiny Dancer and all the Chicago Democrats screaming bloody murder over it.
Well, don't forget that Chicago has lost 5 lawsuits and a couple of those deal with ranges and gun shops opening in the city. We're 4 or 5 years past that, and there still isn't a retail gun shop in the city of Chicago because they don't want them. And you can just take the regulations that the city has put in place and apply that to the state in a hostile administration to where you won't have very many gun shops. Or they'll be like the Walmarts and the Dick's where they restrict purchases, they restrict the sales of what they're going to sell. So this had an unlimited rulemaking ability. If they wanted to, they could create a gun registry. They could say, as part of your reporting and record-keeping requirements, you will report the make, model, serial number, FOID card, and address of every person you sold the gun to every 30 days. That's been tried in a couple of the local ordinances that the anti-gunners have championed. They could sit there and
just on the gun registry thing, because people, I've had this conversation before, but I want to hear your answer. What's wrong with a gun registry? What's the problem with that?
Every time it's been tried, it's led to confiscation. Remember, it was a registry that Chicago had that turned into a handgun ban that lasted for almost 30 years. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have practical experience right here as to why, we just want to know where they are, always gets turned into a ban or something else.
Well, what about the gun licensing bill that Bronner just vetoed? Didn't it have in there provisions for stronger background checks? Or stronger background checks for gun employees?
No, because in order for you to say, all it said is that you had to verify they had a FOID card. I don't know anybody who's an Illinois resident that works behind the counter at a gun store that doesn't have a FOID card.
Yeah.
Right. It's ludicrous. Yeah. I mean, and federal law says you cannot employ somebody that is a prohibited person under the 68 Gun Control Act. So this whole thing, they keep trying to take these bumper sticker slogans. Oh, we just want straw purchase training. Oh, we just want background checks. Well, because we have the FOID card, their background check is moot. It's a bald-faced lie. It is a bumper sticker slogan, a tweet for them to hide behind to bury all the other stuff. They could require every clerk to get over 40 hours of training. Now, if it's Walmart, who got exempted out of the store, they can probably afford that. But if you're a small brick-and-mortar shop that has 3 or 4 employees, you're now going to have to pay what's worth a week's, salary to somebody so they can take training just so they can. And the funny thing is that the department that they wanted to oversee this said, we can't do this. We don't have the people to do it. You want to talk about the manpower? They have to go inspect every gun store before they get a license. There's over 2,000 in the state, 2,000 FFLs that would qualify. So you're looking at just an inordinate amount of man hours that they can't comply with. Buddy of mine's going to went through an audit. He figures the audit in terms of man hours would cost the state over $8,000. If they put their cap on the license at $1,000, you're $7,000 behind just on that one audit. Where are they going to take the money from? They refuse to answer. Is it going to come from, disabled veterans? They're going to take more money out of the Quincy home? Are they going to take more money from, from social services? Are they going to take it out of the education budget? Because, and by our estimate, you're looking at a minimum of $2.5 million a year. Probably, doubling that is not out of the question. And so over a 5-year license, you're looking at anywhere between $12 and $25 million to administer the license.
Yeah, they're
only going to pull in 2.5.
This whole area of policy is why Thomas Sowell admonishes people not to listen to a politician's position, but understand the basis for it and the implications of it. And that's how you separate it. Todd, we got to run, but I appreciate it. Todd Vandermyde, Executive Director of the Illinois Gun Dealers Trade Association. Todd, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
See ya.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a